The Awakening in Chains. Jackson opened his eyes slowly. His head hurt. Everything around him was blurry. He felt cold metal against his skin. As his vision cleared, he saw he was lying on the floor of a dark room. Strange blue lights blinked on the ceiling. His wrists and ankles were chained to the ground. He tried to move, but the chains were tight. He was wearing only a torn shirt and pants, covered in dirt. The air smelled of rust and something sweet, almost like perfume, but strange, alien. Jackson took a deep breath and looked around. The room was made of black metal, smooth like glass. Symbols he couldn't read were glowing on the walls. Then he heard it, a soft breathing sound, slow and quiet. He turned his head and saw a shadow in the corner. Someone was sitting there, a girl, small, with silvery skin that shimmered in the blue light. Her hair floated softly around her shoulders, like waves in water. Her big, bright eyes stared at him full of fear and hope. Who are you?" Jackson asked, his voice dry. The girl crawled forward on her knees, her own wrists chained. She stopped just a few feet from him. "You're awake," she whispered. Her voice was soft and musical. "They said I would get a reward, a strong one, a human." Jackson blinked. "Reward?" She nodded slowly. "They gave you to me, but you are not like the others. You look confused." "I'm not a reward," Jackson said. "I don't even know where I am." The girl tilted her head. "You were in the trials, you survived. That means you belong to someone now." "I don't belong to anyone," Jackson growled. "Who are you?" She looked down. "My name is Nira. I was born in the slave halls. I'm not supposed to speak unless ordered, but I hoped you might be different." Jackson's mind raced. Last he remembered, he was on a space station fixing a cargo ship's engine, then a bright light, then darkness. Now this? Nira spoke again, softly. "They bring humans here for games. If you survive, they give you to someone. That's the rule. I was promised a protector, a strong male. I thought maybe—" She stopped. Jackson looked at her carefully. She looked young, maybe his age. Her face was beautiful but tired. A deep sadness lived in her eyes. She wasn't dangerous. She was afraid. "Who did this to us?" he asked. Nira shook her head. "The traders. They collect rare species. Humans are very valuable now. They think you're strong. That's why they test you. I'm just extra." Jackson's fists tightened. "This is wrong. We need to get out of here." Nira's eyes widened. "Escape? No. We can't. They watch. There are eyes in every wall. They will punish us." "Let them try," Jackson said, his voice low and angry. Suddenly, a light blinked red. A soft hum filled the room. Nira froze. Her face turned pale. "They're watching," she whispered. "Please, don't say more." Jackson stared at the glowing wall. He didn't care who watched. But for now, he stayed silent. Minutes passed. Then an opening appeared in the wall. A small drone floated in, holding a tray of food, 2 pieces of dry bread, a bottle of thick, glowing liquid. It placed the tray in the center and flew back into the wall, which closed behind it. Nira waited. "You eat first," she said. Jackson shook his head. "We share." She looked surprised, then smiled for the first time. It was a small smile, but it was real. They both moved slowly, taking the food piece by piece. No words, just quiet. Later, as Jackson lay back down still chained, he stared at the ceiling. "Why me?" he whispered. Nira answered, "Because you're human. And to them, that means you're strong. But strength doesn't mean cruelty." She turned her head and looked at him. "Maybe you are different." Jackson didn't reply. He just stared at the ceiling. But inside, something was building, a fire. He didn't know this girl, didn't know this place, but one thing was clear. He wasn't going to stay a slave. And neither was she. A slave or a savior. Jackson sat in silence, his back against the cold wall. The chains on his wrists hurt every time he moved. But his eyes were fixed on the girl, Naira. She sat near him, her knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped around them like a shield. Her silver skin glowed softly under the strange lights. Her chains were thinner than his, almost like they were meant to keep her tame rather than truly locked. Jackson broke the silence. You said they gave me to you. Why? Naira didn't lift her head. Because I did everything they told me. I was quiet, obedient. I never cried when they hit me. They promised I could have someone strong, someone mine. I thought maybe he'd protect me. Jackson's heart ached. So, I'm your prize? Naira finally looked up, her eyes filled with sadness. I didn't want it this way. I didn't know you would be in chains too. Jackson nodded. I'm not angry at you, but this place, it's twisted. She leaned forward. Jackson, if you try to fight them, they'll kill you, or worse, replace you. Replace me? They can. Clone, or wipe your memory, start over. They don't care who you are, they care only about the show. Jackson frowned. What show? Naira took a breath. The trials. The traitors run them secretly. They bet on survivors. Humans are rare now. When one survives, it becomes a gift to someone like me, a forgotten, low-born girl who kept her head down. He shook his head. Slowly. I didn't ask to be a fighter. But you are. She whispered. You lived. Just then, the wall across from them lit up. A screen came alive, showing footage. Jackson inside a pit, fighting off alien creatures with nothing but a broken pipe and fire. He didn't remember any of it. The video ended with him collapsing, bleeding, victorious. You don't remember? She asked. No, he said quietly. They took my memory. Naira's voice trembled. They erased what made you human. But maybe not everything. She leaned closer, her voice now a whisper. I think we can escape. Jackson turned to her. You said it was impossible. She nodded slowly. It is. But I've been here since I was a child. I clean floors, I serve food, I listen, and I remember. I know about a tunnel behind the sleep chambers. No one uses it anymore. Why not? It collapsed years ago, mostly. But I think small bodies can still fit through. Jackson raised an eyebrow. Are you calling me small? Naira smiled shyly. No, but maybe if you don't eat for a week. They both laughed softly, the first sound of joy in the dark room. Then she grew serious. They'll move you soon. Tonight, maybe. They don't keep strong males in one place for long. Why? Because they know kindness is dangerous. Jackson stared at her. If you stay with me too long, she continued, you'll stop acting like a prize. You'll start acting like a man. Jackson looked down at his hands. Then let's make them regret giving me to you. Naira tilted her head. You mean, pretend to play along? No. I mean we wait, watch, learn. Then we run. A mechanical click echoed in the room. The chains on Jackson's arms released. His legs were still bound, but he could now move his upper body freely. A voice crackled from above. Robotic and cold. Subject 117. Stand. Present strength. Prove value. Jackson stood slowly, his body sore. He walked to the middle of the room where a glowing circle appeared. He clenched his fists. Naira stood too. Don't let them break you. He nodded. They'll see who breaks. The floor beneath the circle began to lower like an elevator. As it dropped, Jackson gave one last look at Naira. She nodded. They didn't know if this was a test, a trick, or the end, but they both knew one thing. Slavery was not his fate, and saving her might be his purpose. Escape under alien moons. Tiri. Metal platform lowered slowly through a glowing shaft of green light. Jackson stood tall, fists clenched, heart pounding. The chains on his ankles still rattled, but the ones on his arms were gone. As the floor stopped moving, he found himself in a wide chamber, walls made of dark crystal, sharp like frozen glass. Strange alien creatures stood around the edges, their bodies hidden under long hoods. Machines floated above, scanning him, recording him. A large alien with golden armor stepped forward. Its voice was deep, growling. "Human male. You are now marked as bonded property. You will serve until..." Broken. Jackson didn't flinch. His eyes scanned the room for anything useful. A door, a vent, a weak wall. Anything. Another drone approached. It hovered over his wrist and burned a mark into his skin. He gritted his teeth and didn't scream. The pain was sharp, but he welcomed. It had kept him awake, alive. He was led through a hallway lined with glowing glass showing other humans, some unconscious, some screaming, all trapped. But he saw no sign of Nira until he heard the voice. Jackson. He spun around. Behind one of the glass panels, Nira was being dragged by two guards. Her thin arms fought back, but she was too weak. "Don't touch her," Jackson shouted. The guards ignored him, but the floating machines didn't. They scanned. His reaction. One spoke in a cold tone. Emotional reaction detected. Adjusting protocol. The lights flashed red. Suddenly, the floor shook. Boom, boom, boom. An alarm screamed across the corridor. Somewhere above, an explosion had gone off. Power flickered. Jackson saw his chance. He twisted, grabbed the metal collar of a passing guard, and slammed it into the wall. The guard collapsed. In one swift move, Jackson grabbed the fallen weapon. Another guard raised its stun rod. But Jackson moved faster. One hit to the chest. The alien dropped. The collar around his ankle sparked and unlocked, likely due to the system glitch. He ran to Nira's glass cell and smashed the edge of the weapon into the lock panel. Sparks flew. The door opened. Nira fell into his arms. "You came for me?" "Of course I did." He pulled her up and they started running. Alarms echoed everywhere now. Steam burst from pipes and lights blinked in chaos. Other prisoners shouted for help from their cells. "We can't save them all," Nira said with tears. "Not now." "I know," Jackson replied, "but we'll come back." They ran through twisting metal halls, past labs filled with glowing samples and strange creatures in tubes. Nira guided him. "There's a waste chute on the lower deck. It leads to the moon's surface. I've seen it before. It's dangerous, but it's our only chance." They slid down a dark shaft, metal walls rushing past. They hit the bottom hard. Jackson coughed. Nira groaned. But they were still alive. Above them was the sky. Not just one moon, but three. 3 alien moons floated, above casting silver, blue, and violet light over the rocky desert around them. The stars above looked strange and unfamiliar. Nira looked up, her silver skin glowing under the light. "We're on Zorthar. It's a moon used for testing and hunting. We must keep moving. They'll send hounds." "Hounds?" Jackson asked. "You'll see?" she said, shaking. "And when you do, run faster." Jackson helped her to her feet. They were bruised, bleeding, and barely breathing. But they were free. For now. Suddenly, a distant roar echoed across the rocky field. Nira froze. "They're coming." Jackson looked toward the dark hills. Something big was moving. 4 legs, shining eyes. He grabbed Nira's hand. "Let's go. If we survive this, we don't look back." They ran under the glow of 3 moons, chased by monsters bred to hunt. But Jackson had made a promise. He wouldn't stop, and he wouldn't leave her behind. The desert of broken suns. The twin suns rose slowly over the jagged rocks of Zorthar's surface, burning the sky into gold and blood red. It wasn't like Earth. The heat came from above and below. The ground was alive, cracked and hissing, with steam that smelled like acid. Jackson helped Nira climb a tall ridge, each step a struggle. Her feet were cut. Her skin, once silver and soft, now looked dry and pale. They had escaped the underground hell, but now, a new one surrounded them. No trees, no water, just black sand, sharp rocks, and the deep silence of a dead world. "We can't stop," Jackson said, breathing hard. "We have to find cover." Naira nodded slowly. "There's an old testing site, ruins from before the war. I saw it once when they took me for cleaning duty. It's west of here, but we have to cross the bone flats." "The what?" She pointed down the next slope. A wide plain stretched before them, bones everywhere. Giant skeletons of alien beasts. Some looked fresh. "It's where failed monsters die, and where the sun melts the mind." Jackson looked at her, worried. "Are you sure you can make it?" Naira smiled weakly. "I wasn't sure I'd live this long, but here I am." He offered his hand, she took it. They crossed the bone flats together. The heat was brutal. Even Jackson's vision blurred. He wrapped part of his shirt around Naira's head to shield her eyes. She leaned against him, barely standing. After hours, they found a half-buried bunker, a broken steel hatch poking out of the sand. Jackson forced it open. The door groaned, then gave way. Inside, it was dark, cold, and quiet. He pulled Naira in, helped her lie down on a soft pile of cloth. She was burning up, feverish. Her skin glowed strangely now, like something was changing inside her. He touched her forehead. "You're burning." I think it's my blood," she whispered. "It's reacting to something. Maybe the moon's, maybe your presence. I don't know." "What does that mean?" She shook her head. "I was born from altered genes. They called it royal blood. But it was just an experiment. The traders wanted to make perfect companions, beautiful, loyal, silent. But my body didn't stay as they wanted. It evolved. Evolved how? I don't know. But sometimes when I'm scared, things around me change." Jackson sat beside her, confused and worried. Then suddenly the walls of the bunker began to hum. Soft lights blinked on. He stood up, alarmed. "Did you do that?" Naira blinked weakly. "I don't think so." But the walls lit up with symbols. A hidden panel opened, revealing a small supply box, water, dried food, and medical. Shell Jackson stared. "It's like the place responded to you." Naira smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm not so useless after all." He treated her wounds, gave her water, and helped her eat. Then he sat against the wall, holding the weapon he had stolen, watching the hatch as she slept. He thought back. A mechanic, a simple man fixing ships. Now he was hiding in an alien desert with a glowing girl who wasn't just a slave, but something more. A faint sound interrupted his thoughts. Scratch. Scratch. Outside, claws scraped metal. Jackson raised the weapon. The hatch began to turn. The blood that sings. Scratch. Scratch. Click. The hatch above them shook again. Jackson held his stolen weapon tight, breathing slowly. Beside him, Naira stirred, her fever still high. Her eyes opened halfway, glowing faintly in the dark. "What's happening?" she whispered. "We've got company," he said. "Stay down." Outside, something growled. Not like a beast. It was deeper. Colder, mechanical. A hunter drone. Then came the voice, calm, robotic, cruel. "Target. Escaped slave and bonded unit detected. Authorization to retrieve with lethal force." Jackson aimed at the hatch, but he knew one thing. He couldn't win this fight head-on. He wasn't a soldier. He was a mechanic. But he had grit. And Naira. "Naira," he said, kneeling beside her. "You said your blood changes things, right?" She nodded slowly, her hand trembling. "It responds not when I'm scared. When someone protects me. Then be scared. Right now," he whispered. "Let it help us." She looked up at him. Her lips parted. "Jackson, I don't want to lose you." "You won't." Suddenly the hatch burst open. a long silver. Hunter drone dropped in, its face smooth like glass. It scanned the room. One human, one hybrid female. Initiating capture. The drone raised its blaster, but the air shifted. A sharp, strange hum filled the bunker. The walls glowed blue. Symbols appeared. New ones, glowing brighter than before. Nira screamed, but not in pain. Her voice carried through the bunker, vibrating with a power Jackson had never felt before. A voice that could break machines. The drone froze mid-step. Its glass face cracked. Sparks shot from its limbs. Jackson shielded his eyes as the entire room trembled. Then, boom. The drone exploded, into pieces, metal flying in all directions. Silence. Jackson slowly turned. Nira lay still, glowing from within. Her hands smoked. Her hair floated as if underwater. He rushed to her side. "Nira, are you okay?" She opened her eyes weakly. I didn't mean to. It just happened." He held her hand. "You saved us." She looked afraid. "They'll know now. They'll come. They'll never stop." "I don't care," Jackson said. "Let them try. We're not going back." But she was right. If the traitors had doubts about her before, they would now see her as a threat, not a gift. Suddenly, another panel in the bunker opened. A voice, this time female and old, echoed from within. "If you hear this message, it means the blood has awakened." Jackson and Nira froze. The voice continued. "To the child of Project Nira 13, you were never meant to be a slave. You are the last key to the old systems, the last hope to unlock freedom for others like you." Jackson stared at her. "You're a key?" She whispered. "I'm not just one of them. I'm something they couldn't control. That's why they kept me hidden." Suddenly, the bunker shook. More drones were approaching. They had minutes, maybe seconds. Nira looked at him, tears in her glowing eyes. "If they catch me again, they'll cut me open. They'll take what I am." "Then we don't let them," Jackson said, voice hard now. "You're not going to die in a cage." He stood, pulling her close. "We'll run. We'll fight. And if your voice can sing death, then sing loud." Nira smiled through her pain. "With you, I think I can." And with the broken desert behind them and fire rising in the sky, they stepped out of the bunker, ready for war. His choice, her power. Jackson and Nira stepped into the blazing light of Zorthar's red sky. Behind them, smoke rose from the bunker. In front of them, shadows moved through the desert. Hunter drones, tall and silent, marching in a perfect line. Their red sensors glowed, tracking every heartbeat. "Jackson," Nira said softly, clutching his arm. "They're surrounding us." "I know," he said, lifting his weapon. "But they're making a mistake." She looked up, confused. "What mistake?" "They think I'll give you up." Nira's breath caught. "Would you?" Jackson turned his head toward her, his voice calm but steady. "No." The wind blew around them, tossing sand through the air. The drones stopped 20 meters away. Then one stepped forward, larger, armored, with a voice deeper than the rest. "Human. Surrender the hybrid. Your sentence will be softened. You will live as a mechanic under contract." Jackson scoffed. "And she?" "She will be purified. Her genetic errors corrected. She is unstable." Nira flinched. Jackson's voice was louder now. "She's not unstable, she's free." "That is not permitted." The drones raised their weapons. Jackson raised his, but before a single shot could. For Nira stepped forward, her hair lifted again. Her body glowed, not silver this time, but bright white and blue, like lightning trapped inside her veins. "I am not yours," she shouted. Her voice rang like a bell in the air. "I will not be cleaned. I will not be tamed." The air cracked. The desert shook. Jackson turned away just in time as Nira screamed, not in pain but in power. Her voice hit the drones like a storm. Sound waves rippled through the sand. The drones staggered, sparks flying from their heads, metal cracked. One by one they dropped to the ground, twitching, burning, broken. It was not just a voice, it was a weapon. Then, silence. Dust settled. All that remained was scorched sand and shattered metal. Jackson stared at her. That was incredible. Naira fell to her knees, breathing hard. It takes too much from me. I can't do it often. He ran to her side, caught her before she collapsed. But when you do, he whispered, you become more than just free. You become a symbol. She looked up, barely awake. They'll send more. I hope they do, he said, standing tall. Because now I know what we're fighting for. A new sound rose in the distance. Wings. From the horizon, a ship was approaching, dark, alien, and fast. It was different from the hunters, sleek, royal. Not a machine of war, but of power. Naira's eyes widened. That ship, it belongs to the high traders. Jackson held her close. Then let them come. Let them see what I've chosen. What have you chosen? She asked softly. He looked at her like she was the only thing in the universe. I chose you. Not as property, not as a slave, but as my equal. Naira closed her eyes, tears falling, and as the ship landed before them with a loud thud, Jackson stood ready, weapon in hand, heart full of fire. He wasn't fighting just to escape anymore. He was fighting for her right to exist. Free together, the royal ship landed with a deep rumble, kicking up waves of hot sand. Its black surface shimmered like oil, smooth and quiet, but deadly. A long ramp extended, and from it figures emerged. Not drones this time, but real beings. 3 alien nobles stepped forward. They were tall, thin, dressed in long silver robes. Their eyes were narrow, cold, and full of control. In the center was the High Trader, an old alien woman with golden skin and sharp fingers. She looked down at Jackson and Naira like they were insects. So, she said slowly, the experiment lives, and has chosen a human. Naira didn't stand. She was too weak after using her voice as a weapon. But Jackson stood tall, one hand holding, her the other gripping his weapon. She's not your experiment, he said. She's a person. The High Trader smiled, slow and cruel. You poor man. She is our creation. Her voice, her blood, her power. Everything came from us. You can't protect her. She doesn't need to be protected, Jackson said, louder now. She needs to be free. The High Trader raised a hand, and a guard stepped forward. She will be taken. You may live if you kneel. Jackson looked down at Naira, then back up at the aliens, and dropped his weapon. Not in surrender, but in choice. He picked Naira up in his arms and said, if you want her, you'll have to kill me first, and then deal with her. Because I promise. If she wakes up again, nothing will be left standing. There was silence, then a flicker of motion. Naira's eyes opened. She looked up at the aliens and began to sing. Not loud. Not like before, but soft, like a lullaby. The song floated in the air like mist, and suddenly, everything stopped. The High Trader's guards froze, their minds clouded, their weapons dropped. The ground around the ship cracked. The air shimmered, like heat rising from fire. The power in Naira's blood pulsed like a heartbeat through the sand. The nobles stepped back in fear. What is she? One whispered. The High Trader growled. She's unstable. No, Jackson replied, stepping forward with her in his arms. She's free, that's the difference. The ship's engines flickered, and then the unthinkable happened. The ship rose and left. They didn't fight. They didn't argue. They retreated. For the first time in her life, Naira was not claimed, not chained, not owned. The galaxy had just seen what she could do. Later, as the two sat by a quiet stream in the Valley of Broken Moons, Jackson tended to her wounds, and Naira watched the stars. I don't know what comes next, she said. Freedom, he replied. But what does that even mean? Jackson smiled. It means you get to decide. Naira leaned her head on his shoulder. And you? You had a life before all this, a real one. He looked at her with soft eyes. I think my real life started the moment I woke up and found you. She closed her eyes and whispered, Then don't leave. Never, he said. In the dark sky above, satellites spun. The traders would whisper of what happened, a human who chose love over survival, a girl once born to serve, now rising to lead. And in the shadows of stars, a new name began to spread, Naira the Free. Not a slave, not a weapon, but a voice that shook, an empire, and beside her always, a human who refused to bow.